Hello, this is Deborah Anderson, the BlkWmnAnimator, coming back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Katerina Arroyo.
Hey, thank you.
So can you give a quick intro about yourself?
Yes, my name is Katerina Arroyo. I am a visual effects artist. Also my name. I also go by Kat or Katerina. My name is spelled like Katerina, but grew up being called Katerina or Katerina when my mom's mad at me. Katerina Maria Arroyo. I'm a visual effects artist, and I love what I do. I'm a compositor, which is the 2D side of things, and I can explain that a little bit more and later on if you like. Yes, and I've always knew I wanted to take a creative path, and here I am.
So go into the story about your name.
Oh, okay. So I grew up being called Katerina, but it's spelled like Katerina, I think, because the Spanish translation is Catalina with an L, like Catalina almost. And so my parents decided to kind of make it that, but then they called me Katerina growing up. So I kind of, to be honest, started going by Katerina a bit more after the hurricane because sometimes people would make jokes and I didn't think they were very funny. But I respond to all things. Katerina, Katrina.
All right. So where are you from and how was it growing up?
I'm from like several places, I suppose. So I was born in San Francisco, but we were there for like a year. Then my parents moved down to Phoenix, Arizona, and then to New Mexico, where a lot of my extended family is from. All over New Mexico, like Albuquerque. So if you've seen Breaking Bad, that's where I grew up. And Santa Fe, a family in Las Cruces, and family in Texas. So I spent most of my childhood in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then moved to a suburb in Dallas, Texas, outside of Dallas, when I was 9. So then I was there for, through high school and through my education, got really involved in theater in high school. And that was actually starting junior year. So I started taking school seriously, like a little bit late. And then I still have some really great friends from theater in high school that are still in my life now and have been encouraging throughout my whole career. And yeah, so that was Texas. And then around, I think as soon as I could, I left and I moved to Los Angeles. So I got accepted to the Otis School of Art and Design, which I was very excited about, but not after I had built confidence up by going to some junior colleges and a state school. So I've been in school for like way too long. But anyway, I got into art school and I came to Los Angeles, and Otis was so wonderful. I loved my teachers. I'm still really good friends with my life drawing teacher. We still keep in touch. I just spoke with her yesterday, and that was wonderful. And then my sister went to Boston College. So she was having a little bit of a hard time, and I was thinking, well, you know, I've heard there's a good school out there called Rhode Island School of Design, which is actually like one of the best, but I didn't know that. And I was like, oh, I'll just apply, see if I can get in. And then they gave me a big scholarship, so I had to go. So I was like, all right, see you West Coast, see you LA, which is where I really wanted to be. Then I went to the East Coast and went to RISD, which was insane. A wonderful education. I loved art school so much. We learned how to do everything like the old school way. So I took interior architecture as well. So I learned how to hand draft, draw from life, which I did learn a little bit from Otis, but like continued on like practical, like tactile type learning, you know. And then, but then they started to fold in some technology. Like one of our requirements was to have an iMac, or what was it? It was a MacBook Pro, I think. And I had never really had a personal computer before and stuff, so that was good to learn how to use a computer, my own computer, and learn how to draft on the software and stuff like that. So we did some 3D modeling, for environments and houses and or whatever our project was. A lot of the times our projects were abstract too, so they would be some sort of like form and space exercise that turned into something architectural, and it was great. I loved it. But after graduating from RISD, I felt like I was very well versed in all the things that I had learned, but not so much ready for architecture's industry, like the practice or joining a firm or joining a practice. I just felt a little behind in terms of some of those skills. So I was like, well, maybe I'm not hireable yet. And then also I have lots of student loans, and when it comes time to start paying those, you're like, oh gosh, what do we do? It's like, I'm going back to school. I still need to learn. And so I went and got a master's degree, but I was also like, I can't be on the East Coast anymore. I have to go back to LA. So I got into UCLA and got my master's in architecture there and graduated in 2009, I want to say. So it's been a minute. And if you can remember, the market crashed in 2008. So no one was building. Like architecture had kind of like shut down for 2 years or however long. And I decided, because I had lots of friends from Rhode Island School of Design that also came out to LA, and they were all actually in the digital media arts. Mm-hmm. So they were like, oh, come into our world. It's awesome. And I was like, okay, I don't have a job, so yes, please. And it turned out like some companies have like learn on the job, mm-hmm. growing within the company programs. And so I went to the mill, which is where I'm at right now, and mm-hmm. Started out in reception, like running the front desk, and just worked my way up from there. I did make some other moves in between. Like I've been freelancing, or I freelanced for years. But then came back to the mill. And I love what I do. So my digital media arts friends kind of helped me transition. And it was very similar because in architecture, you have to design, then you have to 3D model it, right? And then you need to composite it or entourage it or Photoshop it, get your people in there, get like life in there to sell the project so that you get the money and it can happen. So education in school was really awesome. It was, I want to say it was very necessary for me, but now that I'm here and I have the debt, I do think there were some things I could have, I wish I could have encouraged myself a little bit more to trust myself that I could have gained skills on the job, but that's my journey. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
cool. So I remember in my childhood, one of the things that I wanted to be was an architect. And then, because I was always good at like math and art. And so, nice. But then I kind of realized they don't like draw like that. So I was like, okay, that's out. But
I'm horrible at math, but I had to just pass my structures and get through pre-cal, and like architects are kind of like the artists, and like let the engineers figure it out. Okay. I know it should work in theory. Let them figure out the numbers.
So like what was your journey in art in your childhood? Like what did you do when you were a kid that was artistic? And like what drew you to and captured your attention for deciding to study architecture?
Yeah, I think a big thing for me was, well, I've always loved to draw. And I'm one of those kids, well, I just turned 40, by the way, so I'm a little older. And when some of my friends or people at work ask me, like, what video games did you play growing up? And I'm like, I played outside. So I'm not, but at the same time, I need to like, get up on the games because games are amazing and we work on a lot of cinematics and stuff and they're very cool. So, but I loved being outside. Mm-hmm. I loved animals. I begged and begged and begged my mom to get me a horse at some point. And like, we lived in this rural area in Texas, and my girlfriend, she had a farm across the street, and she was like, well, if you get one, you can just keep it here for free. And I was like, okay. So ended up having a horse for a few years and tried to ride in rodeos. But I was this like little like anomaly kind of at trying to ride in a rodeo with like a Green Day shirt and like Doc Marten boots and not non cowgirl, but loved rodeos and horses and stuff. So I mean, I guess I had when you're riding a horse and you're outside, you have a lot of time to think about how beautiful the world is. I know that sounds cheesy, but you just become visually, I don't know, sympathetic or visually just enamored and just love the beauty of everything you see. And then another major thing that really, I think I was kind of like not necessarily on a path at all, but then all of a sudden, boom, path, was when I was, I want to say 12 or 14 years old. Between 12 and 14, I'm not sure. My parents, we had one big vacation. Well, we've had two big vacations like our whole life. Well, first one was when we went to Maui, and that was really cool. This time we went to Italy. And when I stepped off that platform and I saw so many different people that looked different than me and on this other side of the planet, I was like, boom, whoa, this world is huge and I can't wait to see it all. And I want to experience everything. And it just, I just had such a huge eye-opening experience from traveling. And then we would go to the Uffizi Gallery and see the paintings. We went to the Duomo and saw that architecture. And, you know, a lot of it is like antiquities and stuff, but it's like when I see antiquities or when I see old things, I'm like, damn, we're smart. People are smart and we're cool. We've always kind of been cool. We just need to get our shit together now. But yeah, so I was very inspired by that. And I also felt, I think this is important, when I was, you know, little, I was always like, I also felt like, yeah, this space is for me too, which I knew it. Like when I was there, I was just like, I knew it, right? And so I realized that I wanted to make environments and spaces. And so I decided to go into architecture. Now, I was tempted by going into sculpture. I had convinced myself that it wasn't like a job, or I may not, you know, and architecture was more of like a science and a design with a job ready for me. So I think that's one of the reasons why I tipped towards that. But I also love furniture and I love sculptural type of things, but with function. So industrial design too. Like I remember being a kid and like being enamored with one of my toothbrushes and just thought, wow, this curve turns into that curve right at this moment where my thumb goes. Like some sort of connection was made in my brain. I was like, I love that. So yeah, I think that was big. And architecture is still with me. Yeah. So
yeah, industrial design was one of my things also. I had a period when I was younger where I would just draw shoes from the side.
Yeah, right? Shoes are, oh my gosh. Well, shoes and like sneakers, the cruelest industrial designers make sneakers, right? Like, yeah.
So kindred spirits.
Yes.
So were your parents supportive of your artistic interests?
Yes, they were. They were very much supportive. I think because they just saw how much joy it brought me and how much I opened up once I decided to do, you know, to kind of pursue that. But theater helped a lot too. Theater gave me a lot of confidence. And I think you get, you know, a lot of people that are shy or have anxieties or insecurities in public and stuff. Like I do have that too, but I feel like theater really helped me a lot with that. And so gave me a little more confidence in being comfortable in my own self, because on the stage you're somebody else. And so you can kind of like, you know, push things here and there and get used to being embarrassed or uncomfortable or whatever. And then it's like, oh, whatever, I give zero.
Yeah, I had my journey into being okay with being embarrassed was like way after college, because I remember I had an embarrassing story in college that I just refused to tell people because I was like, nope. Like I can't tell embarrassing stories. And now I tell embarrassing stories all the time, but
all the time, right?
it was like it was a perfectionist thing where I'm like, oh, I have to be perfect, so I can't tell embarrassing stories because what?
Because what? Perfect's boring. I always say if it ain't weird, it ain't worth it.
Right. But now I can be like, oh, last week I did something really stupid.
You want to hear?
Yeah. So some projects. Well, IMDB needs to do better with your IMDB. So I'm gonna list the stuff that's on there, and then you can fill in the rest. Because I know you've worked on a lot of commercials, and they don't really put commercials on IMDb,
right? Yeah,
and like music videos and stuff. So the few things that were on there was 300 Rise of an Empire, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I know you did the Reebok X. What are the Reebok X Cardi B commercials? Run the Jewels featuring Greg Nice and DJ Premier. What else?
Oh my gosh, so much.
Like anything like prominent or cool.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I guess I could talk about a feature experience versus a commercial experience.
I know you like commercials better than feature, right?
I do for now. I mean, I like the medium because it's weird. It's temporary, so you can be experimental. Like, who cares? Maybe no one's going to see it in a few years if it's a flop, or if it's awesome, then everybody will remember it and people will still reference it. So there's like a room for absurdity, I feel like, in there, and I love absurdity. So if a commercial can make me laugh. Also, I love working on commercials with animals, and it's just it's the best. But like, let's see. My first gig outside of commercials was when I went freelance. I worked at a place called Scanline. Pardon me. And that was so cool. I got to touch Iron Man 3 for a couple of weeks, and then that was the Rise of Empire 300, the one that's on the ocean. And that was so cool because Scanline, I believe, invented, the owner, Stefan, invented Flowline, which was like water simulations. And that was everything was on the sea. And so I got to see all those huge renders and meet like genius people who are creating oceans. And all the compositors were really cool, very willing to help me learn. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. My leads were incredible. It was the first time I had like intense tech checks in a theater, like in a movie theater. I'm like, whoa, okay, now I really understand why that stupid little pixel, they keep telling me to fix it, because I can see it. So that was both humbling, insanely exciting, and like I just was filled with joy. I was like, oh my God, have I made it? I've made it. I'm here. So yeah, so exciting. And that was 300. One of the coolest things that I came out with that experience was that my commercial experience that I had before helped me figure out a problem they were having, which was a shot, like an arrow coming straight into this guy's eye, and he had like I think a metal, like not conquistador, but because this is the wrong time, a metal helmet. And it hits him in the eye, and he screams towards the camera. So, and you can see it on my reel. So he's like, ah! And what was happening was they time warped that so that it would be like, and then slow, like, ah. And so during the time warp, because he had water on him and the lighting and stuff, like he was getting these kind of creepy crawly artifacts because we're changing the timing of it. So the software is trying to interpolate in between frames to create new frames to slow down the motion. So we would get some artifacting. And my quick commercial thinking was like, oh, you know what? I think I can figure out how to solve that. So I did just like 3 or 4, well, actually, maybe it was more like 5 or 6. I don't remember, but like median blurs to try to get different levels of his skin without the flickering, and then 2D soft matte and tight matte and whatever work to get it to work. And it ended up working, and they were so thankful. They're like, wow, I threw something together in like 3 hours. They're like, wow, this is a viable execution. So let's do it. And I did it, and they were very thankful. And I don't think that sometimes when you're in feature, to do things perhaps like the median thing in 2D might seem a little bit hacky, but it's not. It's just using all the things you can use. Whereas sometimes in features, you're like waiting on a different department. Whereas in commercials, it's like, well, I think I'm not going to wait on that department. It's just me. I have to figure out something.
Yeah.
So, and then my favorites, I love working on the Reebok spots because I'm a huge Cardi B fan.
Yeah.
And the one spot that we had shown during Access VFX was my favorite. Granted, she's had a few other Reebok campaigns that I've worked on, and that was also really amazing. But I think the first one with the nails growing is just my favorite because it's just so bizarre and all like weird, but like so her and funny. And I love her lines in that. It's just like, what does she say? Do you think he's cute? You know? And then her girlfriend's like, he all right. But to get the CG looking right, and like that's the Cardi B Reebok spots I like to talk about because I think it shows that other perspectives are really important to have in the industry. Like I was saying, to redo her nails, I know that she had this Swarovski crystal that had an Aurora Borealis like flair to it. Yeah. And a lot of the guys don't know anything. And I work, there are not a lot of us. There's a lot more females coming up in our industry and stuff, but it's mostly men. And they don't, exactly know. And so I was like, you know what, we got to get this right. And so that felt really cool. And then and the guys were like, oh, awesome. Thank you. Because they want to know, this is the project that they're working on. So
can you kind of go into a little bit the solution you had for her nails?
Oh yeah, sure. So the CG was all, I can actually pull out the practical. Do you want me to grab it? Okay, hold on one moment. So we can actually like have a visual to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, where did I put my headphones? Here they are. Okay, so here are the Cardi B nails for that Reebok spot where her nails were growing, and we shot these practically so that we could match the CG model. And as you can see, like it's a specific pink that her nail artist Jenny Bui designed for her for the spot. And you can see the Aurora Borealis, like that rainbow sparkle.
Yeah.
And the rainbow sparkle's kind of on the surface. It's not like below and you see it through a clear diamond, and then it's on the surface. So I put together a rainbow, like a Voronoi pattern, and gave it to CG or the lighting team. And then the lighting team ran it through. And then that's when we finally got the nails to look, the crystals to look right. Before they were looking like gold or like silver, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, and that collaborative process it's just so much fun. It's like, two artists trying to figure out how to get Cardi B nails right. And I love that. Like, yes, sign me up every day.
So it shows the importance of like having diversity, a woman, a person of color, a Cardi B fan, a person who knows about nails. Like, I feel like sometimes we stay on the surface with the importance of diversity and only think about skin color, but it's like deep cultural things that we know about that can add to solving problems.
Absolutely. And it's all awesome because you're going to be on jobs. The next job I'll be on is like for an Acura car, and I don't know that much about Acura, but my teammate does, and they nerd out about it. And then so I learn about Acura. And
Yeah.
it's not like I'm super excited necessarily about learning about brands, but people, like, I love Cardi, I love, it's, for me, it's more of the love of the talent. And, and it's a sacred task for me. I'm also a woman of color, I'm Latina, and, it's important to get it right. And it's important to get it right. And it's also important to love what you do. And I'm sure, maybe not many men want to be necessarily working on that. They'd rather work on Iron Man or something.
Yeah.
And but I love it. So there's lots, I guess what I'm saying is trying to communicate is that there's lots of room for lots of different types of people to join visual effects. Whether it's also animation or what I do, which is compositing, or, the flow line, or FX, which is simulations and fire and wind and water, so much, and that small Cardi B job that we were on, let's see, there was me, a flame artist. I had another assistant in Nuke. And then I think, so that was 4 2D people. And then there was Jason, and then there was Brian, and then the lead. So there was it was a team of maybe 10 people, 7 to 10 people to get that done. So you're never alone as well.
So you got to walk away with the nails, and didn't you get something else?
Oh, they gave me her shoes. Oh my God. Okay, I'll pull one out. The Club C's. And this is them. So in the spot, I was going to give you I meant to give you the link, but this is the Club C. Oh wait, here we go. And they're so small. She has small feet. But the agency was so appreciative because I'm such a fan that the couple of the agency guys were like, will you tell us, educate us on who she is? You know what I mean? I don't know how else to say that. I was like, absolutely. Oh my gosh, let me show you, girl. And we all had so much fun in the suite together, because every time they'd come in, I'd be like, oh, the clients are here. And they loved it. So being a joy is also a help, and enjoying what you do is because you have clients coming in, they're stressed, they just got off the plane or whatever. They've got to get this spot done in a few days. And so when they come in and we're all excited to be part of their team and working on what they're doing, they really appreciate it. And I think they loved me, and they loved my enthusiasm for the job. And so they are like, you want her shoes? I think they might fit you. It's like, yes, give them to me. Yes.
Yes. Now, please.
Yeah. So I'm pretty fortunate. And then doing the other Reebok spots has been a lot of fun too. She's just beautiful, just gorgeous.
So I know, well, quick aside, I have some friends that I know through my work in the Urban League on Professionals. One of them is getting their PhD, and she's teamed up with a couple people. They published a paper the sociology of Cardi B or something like that.
Wow, please send it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll try to send it to you.
Not published yet or whatever, just send it to me. I mean, I feel aligned with her. I know I'm much older than her, but for her it was how am I gonna get out? How do I make sure that I set up this life for myself and I'm happy and I'm doing what I want and I'm doing what I'm good at? And her lyrics are just, they make you feel like such a boss lady and such a badass and give you so much confidence. For her, it may have been dancing and stripping and rapping. For me, it was architecture. Yeah. Same story though, almost in a way. I mean, I may have not, come out the mud as much as she says, but I definitely come from a background, first one to go to college in my family, didn't really have a computer in my house growing up. So I had to do, I guess what I'm trying to say is I understand, especially for women of color, that it takes us a lot more for us to get to here than others. And I love her story. And I'm just, if the fact that the Reebok spot that we did, the fact that she sold out, I forget which, it was not the nail one. The nail one, I think she may have sold out. I'm not sure. But the Reeboks that are kind of a lavender and blue, they have that thick, chunky, and then the red and black ones sold out everywhere. Sold out in Macy's, sold out JCPenney, sold out everywhere in 24 hours. And if I can be a part of that, and I can be a part of, you know, a Black woman's success, yes, sign me up. It's a sacred task. I love doing it. It's like what I've born to do, what I'm meant to do. And so when I heard that she sold out in 24 hours, I was so happy. It's like, yeah, she did. Yeah, she did.
Yeah. And like, I wouldn't technically classify myself as a fan. Like, I really like her music and all that stuff. I just don't like follow it closely, but I do like come to her defense in like comment sections because like, because of her background, people don't regard her as intelligent. And so, you know, when she was doing the interview with like Joe Biden and all that stuff, and they're like, ooh, where does she have? I'm like, pretty sure, I think she went to college for poli-sci. So she actually knows what he's talking about. I mean, I don't know. I don't think she graduated, but I'm just like, just because she talks like that doesn't mean she's intelligent. She's not.
And she probably speaks more languages than you. She speaks more languages than, you know, whoever that commenter was. That person probably only speaks English. She speaks Spanish fluently. She speaks English and maybe, I don't know, something. I wouldn't be surprised if she spoke another language. You know, I see her. I see that genius. I see that. Like,
and if you actually listen to her speak, she's actually saying things.
Oh, she's very smart. I mean, even in her lyrics, like in the songs and stuff, I'm just like, what I used to call it like millennial wisdom or Gen Z wisdom or something that a lot of other, you know, older generations don't have. And she just gets it. Like the one line and that one song where she says, you have me questioning myself because you're inconsistent. I'm like, damn, she got it. Like, she gets it. She got second sight, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I feel her.
Yeah. So what do you love about visual effects and compositing?
Oh, I love visual problem solving, and I love that compositing is kind of like moving collage in a way, but then also integration. And I think it's a really great challenge and a satisfying challenge to like, let's say you have a talent that is shot on green screen, they're too busy, they can't make it to set, you know, in New Zealand or something odd. And so they get shot somewhere else. I have to make it seem like they're over there. So it's such a great challenge. And it's compositing in a way is almost instantly gratifying, or like, you know, like if I block out the shot and I get them there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. Okay, great. Now I just got to do the final tedious things to sell it, but I know it's going to work. So I think, because I was actually thinking of going into CG, coming from architecture. I was like, oh, well, maybe it's a natural progression to start going into CG. And but now thinking about it, and this isn't anything bad on CG at all, because it's also amazing. I just feel like CG versus compositing is like icing on the cake, compositing is the icing on the cake, where CG is the cake. It's hard. You got to get all the ingredients right. You have to have the oven at the right temperature, and you put it in there and it's got to render overnight. It's like big stakes. Whereas like once that's all figured out, they just give it to me and I get to like make it look really pretty and really sing it in there. So, you know, all tasks are intense and stuff, but yeah, I guess I'm the end of the line, so I kind of get to sweeten things up and finish things. So that's satisfying.
Can you talk about the difference between 2D compositing and 3D compositing?
Oh, let's see. Well, compositing in general is 2D. When we get CG renders or renders from 3D, they're already rendered in a 2D form, right?
Okay.
So, but that is different in that I'm getting it from CG. I'm getting an Iron Man. I have to make Iron Man fly through the sky and look like he's actually in the sky. Whereas maybe I've got a different shot where I have to put birds in the sky. but we don't have enough, the company or the client doesn't have the money for CG birds. So we just go out one night and shoot, in Malibu, a flock of birds or something. So that's a 2D element. Okay. And then I put those 2D birds to look on, like to put them onto our plate. So that's what I mean in a way about moving collage. Okay. So those are, yeah, but in the end, it's all 2D. I guess it all comes out flat. Yeah. But yeah, that's, so sometimes when you work on CG, you get lots and lots of passes and lots of cool things to make your CG look better and to integrate it, which is really interesting. Different new types of passes that maybe you've never gotten before that just help give a highlight or help give something to the CG. So that's really cool. You have to figure out how to put those passes together mathematically. So that's
like the beauty pass, ambient inclusion, specular, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, all your lighting passes, plussing them together, and then maybe one of them is too strong, so you strip it out and then add it back in later, a little bit less. Yeah, that's comp. And yeah, that's the CG side of comping, and they're both equally fun. I think they're both equally fun. Some people do prefer comping 3D to comping 2D. 2D tasks sometimes can be pretty hard. And CG, it's not so much that it's not hard to comp CG, but if you don't have good CG, then it's hard to comp it. If you have good CG, then it's like, wow, it comes together. And yeah.
Cool. What would you say is the biggest breakthrough in your career, or have you had multiple breakthroughs in your career?
Yeah, I've had, I think maybe I've had multiple. One of the first ones was when I first said, no, I'm not staying late. It was so hard. It was so hard. I don't remember when it was. I just remember being like, I just did that. And it's okay. I needed it. I had gotten to a point where I was very tired, and I just needed it, and it got easier. It got easier, not necessarily to say no, but it got easier to communicate that I need something, or I need some help on this, or can, yeah. So that was a breakthrough, and it took me a minute to get there.
Yeah, for me, I remember like in some previous positions, it's been like, you can tell that I'm being treated differently, and as like a multiple minority, I'm like, is it because I'm a woman or is it because I'm Black? And I don't know. And so it's some reason, and like I had, because sometimes you attack it, and then for my personality, if the response is dumb, I'm just like, okay, I just won't advocate for myself anymore, because I just don't want to continue hearing dumb things in response to me advocating for myself. But then over some years, I kind of took like a couple years, and then I started advocating for myself again, because sometimes my like supervisor would be ridiculous. And then when I started advocating for myself again, he's like, oh, okay, we can do this. I'm like, so was I actually being discriminated against, or is it because I didn't speak up?
Or is it because that person was having a bad day that day? Or, it's so,
like, oh my gosh, I've been going through so many things for the past several years, and it could have not happened possibly.
Yeah. So cut it out.
Yeah. So it's like, oh man, like, okay. So you have to continue advocating for yourself, just in case it's not because you're a minority, and it's just because you haven't spoken up for yourself.
I suppose, I know that some people probably feel, because I am 40, I suppose, I've been the only woman in the room, like almost the whole time, and I got used to it. And so I know that I'm not exactly the most in tune with, also with like things like microaggressions and the things that happen. Like it takes me a minute for me to realize, and I'm like, wait a minute, okay, dick. But yeah, I also think that it might be good, because I just don't let it get to me, or it's just like it's not so much that I'm rejecting it. It's just more like I just don't even see it or not that I don't see it, but it's just it doesn't affect me. So, and also I work with really wonderful people now.
Yeah.
I know I don't know too much about production, but I think that there's a bit more competition between each other in production, whereas in being an artist, you're all on a team together. Granted, I've heard some kind of sabotaging each other in different studios here and there. Never experienced it myself, so I won't say anything.
Yeah.
But I've been very fortunate to be around artists, and artists most of the time we're all just kind of weird and goofy and silly and just want to get the job done and support each other, because it's so hard. It's like can never just fall on one person. It's like it's a team effort every time. So we all really work well together, and we all like respect each other.
Most of my adult career has been in the South, so it was like, even though I 3D modeled all of this stuff, that the way they treat me is as if I didn't do it. So it's just like
so that's why you're in California.
Yeah, like because it was like I was a project manager of one project, and they're like, oh, you can get your coworker and the contractor to do these big things, but you can do the screws and the bolts. And I'm like, but what? Why would I do any like things if I modeled? What?
Yeah.
It's like
weird.
Like I look forward to when I re-break into the industry in Los Angeles and like get to experience a different environment.
Yes.
The South was not it.
I mean, I didn't even know that there was stuff going on down there as well. Like I hear
I had to kind of make it my own way.
How amazing would it be if we had like a cool VFX place in New Orleans? I would move in a hot minute. Like I've never even been, and I just know I would do it just to experience the city. And I want to go so bad. My husband is be going on a shoot there, and I'm like, I wish I could go with you.
So what are your other breakthroughs in your career?
Let's see. Another breakthrough. I guess going freelance.
Okay.
Breaking free from, or I sometimes when you work your way up in certain companies, you're at a lower wage. And there's a moment where you kind of feel like you can't afford to work for them anymore, because at the rate in which they give raises, so, and for some reason in our industry, at least with visual effects, I think it's because unlike editorial or some other posts, I think mostly editorial and animation, y'all have guilds, right? Or like unions. We don't.
Right.
And so I needed to go freelance because I just couldn't afford to be working that much and not making enough, and then not having any time off. The main thing was the time off.
Yeah.
And so I went freelance, and then that's when I went to Scanline, and that was amazing. I worked there for 6 months, and then took a little time off, and then, just jumped around. I jumped around for years and met lots of wonderful people, lots of great places to work. And that was huge for me, because also when you freelance, you're kind of like, the new blood that's coming in, and you don't know all the politics, you don't know the bad blood, you don't know any of that stuff, and and you don't care. You're in there to just come in and do your job and again and leave. And there's something really nice about that. And you also pick up skills along the way. So I definitely encourage freelancing. And and now that I'm staff again, it's not so much that I've settled in at a place. It's more I figured out the place that I feel like I can grow the best way, and the best way, and a lot of times in our industry, the way that you grow is like, okay, you start comp, and then you become senior comp or mid-level, then senior comp, then lead, and I don't necessarily want to go in that direction. I'm more into outreach. I would like to help train juniors. I would like to help, I have a little dream of mine to somehow start a little VFX academy of my own here in South LA for my neighborhood, in my neighborhood kids. And, it's in their backyard. It's right here. And chances are they're more like well-versed digitally than I am already.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that that's the way in which I'm growing. And my boss had recently said that she had noticed that. And she was like, I think it's interesting that you're kind of carving a growth for yourself and a trajectory for yourself that isn't the norm. And I think you're proving that it doesn't have to be the norm, you know? So that's that. Freelancing was a breakthrough. And then also I would say that working with Anne, who you met, on Outreach and whatever else I can do.
Yeah.
I feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it, you know?
I know with you saying that you started out in reception, can you talk about the power of the mindset that no job that you've previously done, no matter how small people think it is, it's all important? Because you mentioned in another video of how when you were applying for some job and had the interview and they heard that you work for Starbucks, they were like,
that was it. Actually, it was the mill. So my first job in reception, you know, I had showed them, well, I had to apply, and that was my foot in the door. So the managing director at the time was interviewing, and he was like, well, let's talk about your experience. And I was like, well, you know, here's my portfolio from my master's degree at UCLA, and I went to Rhode Island School of Design, blah, blah. He's like, no. What's your work experience? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I worked retail for years, and I worked at Starbucks. He was like, you're hired. Because you have, you know, a well-rounded person is necessary when you do this kind of work. Sometimes you got to work really long hours. Sometimes you got to think on your feet. Sometimes you gotta be a people person too. You know, it just makes everything so much better. And I think that's what that meant to him. Oh, you were in charge at a Starbucks, or you worked at a Starbucks for years, or at retail. I know that you're a hard worker, and that you know, you can manage and think on your feet, and also talk to people. So yeah, I think that, you know, that experience, when you're in the suite with somebody and they don't have that experience, sometimes they stand quite out. You're like, you never made your bed, did you? Your mom never made you make your bed. I can tell. There's some common sense things that are not working out.
Well, can you talk about like you're collaborating all the time? So what is the importance of being a great communicator?
Oh, it's very important.
Or can you tell some stories of where, with no names mentioned, like what happened when somebody wasn't a great communicator?
Oh, well, if somebody's not a great communicator, like, you could end up getting the wrong texture on, you know, a CG thing that you've requested, and you get it and you're like, what is this? And then you say, what is this to them? And they're like, it's what you asked for. And it's like, no, that's not what well, what's that communication breakdown? Here we've lost a day because it takes a whole day for the CG to render.
Right.
So so that's really important. And going back and forth, there's nothing wrong with asking questions, right? Yeah. Sometimes people think that sometimes cultures at workplaces make you feel that way too. I know. Just be the squeaky wheel. Like I said, get used to it. Like, fuck it. Just be that. Just elbow your way in there. It's meant for you. You're there, right there, doing the job. You were hired for it. It's yours. Like, you do it. Don't listen to, you know, just I guess that's what I've done. I have a thick skin, so thick that, like, I don't even know when arrows are coming. I got a job to do. I'm so busy.
Yeah. You know? So you've kind of made it a family affair with, like, getting your sister into the industry, and then I think, do you have another sister as the editor or something? Or?
Yeah. So Emily, my younger sister, so there's three of us here, Emily and Erica, and Emily is now an editor, and she's been editing for a while. She was at Union Editorial for a long time, growing her wings, and yeah, she's been bouncing around in the industry. I believe she was a history major and maybe Chicano studies, like, minor or something. And then my youngest sister Erica actually studied neuroscience, neurology, neuroscience. I don't know. she's a brainiac, and she has a PhD. She's this is another like unfortunate thing about work industries and stuff. She's I really wish she had stayed and had gone into research, because she was getting somewhere with Alzheimer's and autistic studies, like brain, you know, and like how we actually research them isn't exactly the best way to research, which is huge. Like she was doing research on the mouse model, which is like literally mice, but in utero, like still in the mama, and that's actually more telling of when these things are traceable and when you can actually, you know, try to do a therapy on them and stuff. And nobody's even never studied the mice well, and you know, so I feel her research was so amazing and just mind-blowing. But then she was like, I'm not going to make any money. I'm not going to be able to live in Los Angeles. I'm not going to, you know, so she had to bolt, and now she works for Deluxe, and she's learning, I think she's going to be on a colorist trajectory. She might go editorial first, but she's already learning she's fairly comfortable in like Resolve, and so she's going to fly too. She's going to do great.
Yeah, I feel like that's the unfortunate thing about like our culture, in that the most important people don't make the most money. So there's so many like discoveries that we could have had if people could just have made a living.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, I want to research this, but at the same time, she also is very much in love with photography, and I think that girl's going to be like a DOP someday. She's going to, So, you know, wherever she goes, she's gonna do big things, and maybe someday she can come full circle somehow into the medical industry. You know, maybe she's a DOP on a doco, or she helps visualize some research that's important.
Yeah. So can you talk about how did you get involved in the Shake It Like a Zombie music video?
Oh my goodness. Fast family fun stuff. Did you see it? Is that on? Oh my gosh.
It's on the YouTube.
It's on the YouTubes. It was just, we've got cameras and friends and fun and stuff. Let's just shoot some fun things. And
With all the choreography and
you gotta start somewhere, you know. You gotta have fun somehow, and it's definitely ridiculous and silly. I had no idea that it was there.
Yes, I do my research. So I know you mentioned kind of how like you don't kind of notice microaggressions and stuff like that, but has there been any ways how being a woman, you know, a person of color, or any other isms, even if it's like the anxiety piece, has impacted you in your visual effects career?
Yes, it did. It was early on, though. I was. There was some time when we didn't have an HR department, and it was really hard. And then as soon as we got an HR lady, I was like, every day, you know, this happened. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle. I'm thankful that it's over with and stuff. But maybe it was also a good lesson, because like I got a really strong backbone from that. Microaggressions, actually one recently happened to me, and I confronted them, and it was all working from home, so that made it even weirder. But they had said, oh, no, that was not my intention at all, that was not this or whatever. But when you stand back and look at it, you can see it. And even this person is a dear friend as well, so I get it, but I can share the example. So I had I was doing something, and I had a question about a CG pass, and I took a screenshot. I took the time to take a screenshot and say, this is where the problem is. Can we ask CG to get rid of it so that, you know, in the next version, blah, blah, blah. And then immediately back was just a comment that said, how can you do that if how can you remove something if it needs to be cast a shadow, something like that.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, but it was like, and then they had said my name too. It's like,
Mhm.
how can the cat? And I took that as like, wait, what do you mean? Like,
Mhm.
they can turn off self-shadowing, right? And I was like, it's just, see what? And then but I guess he was joking with me, or I don't know. But I was thrown off because I took the time to ask an intelligent question, and it was met with a joke or like a little, like a remark. And
Right.
then they ended up saying, oh, well, yeah, go ahead and just ask CG. And I was like, well, then that means that you were microaggressing me if you just said, well, then go ahead, or you didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's all confusing. And I just said, listen, I felt like you microaggressed me.
Mhm.
And they apologized up and down. And I said, it's hard on chat. Like, I felt like I took the time to ask you a question intelligently. And I figured that I would have been met with respect and how you would answer it. But instead it was a joke. Okay, it's fine. I didn't get it. It didn't. And
Right.
then they had told me to do something else. And I started to do that task. And then like half a day later, how are you getting on? Oh, I'm well. I'm good. This is a little bit harder. I might need a little more time to do that task. Oh, I was joking. Don't do that. How am I supposed to know that? Like, that was a joke? Wait, you asked me to do a task and that was a joke. Like, come on.
Right.
Come on, dude.
Mhm.
I'm not an idiot. So anyway, that sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
But I called it out. I call it out now when I see it or I feel it. If I don't and it's 3 days later, then I just talk it over with friends or my therapist or my psychiatrist or like my team. Work through it and move
on. What have you learned throughout your life and career that will be beneficial advice to others?
I would say definitely like trust yourself and listen to yourself. Like, and if you're feeling some kind of way that somebody does to you, like listen to yourself. You're not an idiot. You know what's going on.
Right.
And especially if there's a power dynamic. Also, just try to just stay excited and happy and learn and keep that going. Keep whatever it is that gets you really excited and up in the morning.
Yeah.
Keep that going strong, and also some things that we do sometimes in compositing is if we're on a job that has one really hard task that's time consuming and hard, and then I've got 4 other easy tasks, sometimes I'll do those 2 easy tasks and then take on the harder one so I get a couple wins in. And I learned that from my bosses because they're like, oh, and but most of the time I would approach the first one, the hardest one first, and try to attack it and pull my hair out, and then I've lost a day or whatever. Whereas they're like, oh no, get some wins in first, build up your spirit. And so that's helpful.
Yeah. So as someone who's been in the industry for over a decade, have you decided like your purpose in regard to being like brown and brown professionals in VFX? I know you mentioned the academy and stuff like that, but
yeah,
do you purposely do stuff?
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
Do you like purposely do stuff to get like more brown people?
Yeah, with the outreach program. I've also, I haven't had a chance to volunteer in a long time, but I was also trying to volunteer more at the Inner City Arts School, which is right outside of downtown. They do have a career day, I think, coming up, which I'm going to try to volunteer for, and maybe Anne will come with me. Yes. What else? Like, I mean, for me, that's in a way the goal. Like, if I could help educate some, and help kids get into visual effects without maybe taking on like the level of debt that I've taken on, for example. Like, I love my education. My journey has been awesome and stuff, but I'm well over 6 figures in debt from it, and it's very hard to get out from underneath it, right? So I would like my ultimate goal would be to help some of these kids get into visual effects without having to take on debt, without having to feel like they have to go to a 4-year college or, you know, trade school, or you know, maybe they want to do both. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, you don't have to have a college degree to do visual effects, actually, you know, and you don't even have to have a certificate, whatever, you know? So, yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate that I do have a master's degree because now I can teach at the college level, which would be cool. Maybe that will be in my future. So, you know, maybe it's not, I mean, there is no regret. It's just the regret is the level of debt. So, yeah. But that's the goal. The goal is to maybe teach and share and train.
Yeah.
Demystify.
Yes, definitely. What do you hope minority / Hispanic VFX professionals do in this current landscape that maybe you wish you would have done or that you're currently doing? You know, we have all this technology now. We have all these social media platforms. What are you hoping that people are doing out there?
It's a good question.
Or what is you would hope to do if you had the time?
Yeah, like what kind of project would I like to be on, or what would I like to? Yeah, you know, let's see. I'm not sure what the ideal project would be, but like I said, I do have the dream of opening up a little VFX academy, but also, my sister and I, now this is like a big dream. We have a dream about opening up like an artist residency / school / studios on the border for border kids that have nowhere to go and are, you know, creative minded and
cool. And even I guess maybe for DACA,
right? Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit farther out than maybe the VFX Academy dream, which I think could happen. I need to educate myself in grant writing and stuff like that. Like my my life drawing teacher that I was telling you about from Otis, she was telling me that she was going to try to get me in touch with someone and see if we can get some grants written up and stuff. So yeah, cool. Yeah, education, I guess. I love sharing what I know, and there's a lot of like technical stuff to weed through, and there's room for everyone. You don't have to be super technical. Like I'm not super technical, but I can figure things out and I can ask questions and I can you know, lean on a technical person, you know, and sometimes the technical people don't quite get the artistry stuff right. So it's like, they're like, can you just please help me get this singing? Okay, you got it. So yeah.
So my last question, if someone was producing a documentary about you, what things would you want them to highlight about your life outside of your work in VFX?
Wow. Oh man, that might get really like personal and political, I guess. I don't know, but
that's fine.
Is that okay? All right. You can always edit it out, right? If it's just too much, but
this is about you, whatever you want in your documentary.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I have to be honest, right? So, okay, it's about my upbringing, but my goal is to be every Christian's favorite atheist, if that's possible. Like, because I love people. I love, and I'm a big lover of Jesus, if that makes sense. He's a revolutionary. Like, I'm so down. I get it, you know, and I am here for you, like, as strong as your Christian brothers and sisters, if that makes sense, because you are my brothers and sisters too. And I love is just, for me, love is my God. God is love. And so if I can get behind anything, I just replace the word God with love.
Cool. So where can people see your work and follow you on social media if they want to?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not really big on it, so apologies. I am going to start, because I blame my age. I've got the, you know, Facebook status question, what is your status? And then my first reaction is like, who cares? I don't even care, like, myself. So I'm not really on Facebook very much at all. I am on Instagram, but I don't really post that much about visual effects. I'm gonna try to start. I'm shy, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, it takes me forever to post one thing. So most of my posts lately are like Black Lives Matter, or go to this black coffee shop, or actually today I need to go get some fish stuff from my favorite fish store called Tokyo Fish, and it's a Japanese owned, family owned forever in LA. So I'm going to do an Instagram about that. So yeah, I need to get more VFXy in my my Instagram, but I believe it's at Kittymoto, KITYMOTTO. It's just personal. And
then what's your website?
My reel has not been updated in years. So
that's what everybody says. I guess you're so busy just working your career. You're like,
I mean, 2013. Like, it just, when you're in the industry, you get so busy. And recommendations are really, really important, even more so than your reel, because you can show the sexiest shot on your reel and you could have done one little tiny piece of it and claim it, you know? So there's a lot of that to weed through. So recommendation. And that's why I say be cool, like be good to work with, be fun. And that will take you really far, because there's a lot of really cool, fun people in this industry that want to share and need like energy, you know, in the room. So
cool. So thank you for coming on my platform. I really appreciate you allowing me to highlight you.
Yeah, thank you for asking me. I was honored. Like, after Access VFX, I was buzzing and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm where I'm supposed to be, because I got the opportunity to do work like that. So thank you. Have me back anytime. And I look forward to seeing everything that you do as well, and with Access VFX.
Thank you. So to everyone out there, I want you to like so I know it's real, comment and tell me how you feel, subscribe to Seal the Deal, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Bye.